Welcome back. This is a lot to go over today as Matt Derrick joins us on the Chiefs beat about what's going on in the defensive line room. Everybody's not exactly healthy. How do they take a step forward from the Texans, and what do the Seahawks have in store for them? We're going to get to it all today with Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com here on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate Football GM. It's a brand new game you can download right now at ultimate-gm.com and use our code Locked On to get all caps. That will be important to get all of a 300% boost on your franchise. We'll tell you more about this coming up. Matt Derrick is here from ChiefsDigest.com covering the team in perpetuity, covering things that I just have questions about, and that's why Matt comes here to set us straight. We're going to get into it. You can find him at ChiefsDigest.com. That link should be in the notes. And I'm Ryan Tracy from NFL 33 and RGR Football and whatever else I can think of. Oh, yeah, the Matrix is coming. Don't forget the draft guide. Lot coming here, Matt. And the draft is something we could put off for a little bit. I think we're going to be okay there. But it really comes down to, like, there's always a reaction to a game like the Houston Texans game where, oh, we have to replace X, Y, Z. And all of a sudden you're talking about 10 positions that you don't have draft picks for. So in your eyes, is there anything to take away as we start to move away from the Texans game that really should be a concern?
I mean, I think there's little things. Certainly. I'm of the philosophy that there's not really any team, and certainly the AFC and certainly the NFL in bigger picture doesn't have flaws. Do the Chiefs have flaws? Yeah, they do. There's some things on defense that they need to be doing better if they want to make a deep playoff run. I would probably put those under the general category of get off the field. It's something that they're just having trouble with. Offensively, I think that they're in fine shape, but I still look at the Texans game and look back at it, and it's like, this is not the fundamentals of a game that was a close game. I mean, this one ended up that way because of penalties and a couple of timely turnovers that the Chiefs had. But other than that, I mean, the Chiefs absolutely routed the Texans. I mean, they didn't belong on the same field. 502 yards of offense. They kept the Texans in check. It wasn't for one short field and a bunch of penalties. Not sure this game's a close game. And if these two teams played 9 more games, I think the Chiefs win probably all 9 of them, and none of them are as close as this one.
I think the one disturbing thread that's through that is the turnovers. Now, we look at them for the season. They're -6 on the year. They're turning the ball over too much on offense. They're not taking it away enough on defense. Is that something I'm not sure that it's something can be corrected here before the postseason, but we've seen them adapt in December going into the playoffs in the past. I think it's got to be a point of emphasis, but do you think that's true? And do you think they can turn that around?
Yeah, I mean, and to me, there's two different, stories to me. I mean, one on the offensive side, are you turning the football over too many times? On the ground, yes. I mean, that's a problem. And some of it is simply probably bad luck. I think of the last 10 fumbles that the Chiefs put on the ground, the opponents recovered 7 of them. I mean, that's just a little bit of a coin toss going your way. I mean, typically that's going to go 5-5. So maybe they're just in a little bit, they're waiting for that reversion to the mean right now on that. But I mean, hey, this team's going to turn over the football. I mean, that's just part of it. I mean, Patrick Mahomes will tell you that. I mean, he doesn't want to, but with his style of play, he's going to throw some interceptions. I mean, that's just what you're going to get. It's what you're going to get with an offense that has the kind of output that they do. So you're going to live with turnovers. To me, hey, are the turnovers out of line? If I'm looking at the turnover percentage and the rate at which this team is given over the football, as far as the percentage of their drives go, I'm not worried about the offense. The question's on the defensive side, because right now your defense is not getting off the field. And that's in more than just the turnover category. They're not getting off the field on third down. They're not getting off the field in the red zone, and they're not creating turnovers. One or more of those have got to change. I mean, this team can go a certain way, but at some point, certainly in the postseason, you're going to have to start winning those battles. You're going to have to start shutting down teams in the red zone. You're going to need to do better on third down, especially in third and, medium and third and long. Eventually, you're also just going to have to create some turnovers. And I mean, I'm of the philosophy that, hey, if this team's going to win a Super Bowl, we're probably going to look at it at the end of February and say, well, it's because this team was like +7 in turnovers because they were taking care of the football better and they created a bunch of turnovers in playoff games.
I think that's the number one takeaway when we look at what happened last week outside of the Kansas City game. It is the Bengals having to come back on a bad team. It was the Bills dispatching what had been a hot team in the Miami Dolphins with old friend Tyreek Hill. Both teams, I don't think, looked optimal. And so it's not just the Chiefs that are having kind of a December lull right now. It does feel like all the top three teams are struggling here and there. But that's the number one thing that I think can change that fortune against those two teams in particular, because right now there's one game between them left on the schedule that will likely determine whether the Chiefs have an opportunity to be the number one seed. And if they are not, then they likely have to go through both of them. And that's where I think the turnover battle is going to be most crucial. Gut feeling. I know the other day you were still optimistic Chiefs can be the first seed. Right now, does that still ring true?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's obviously it's going to be the Chiefs or the Bills to me. I mean, I think it was just too much of a running the gauntlet for the Bengals to get there. A lot of things have to go their way because I think the Chiefs are going to win out. And if that's the case, do I think the Bills are going to win out? I'm not convinced about that. I think it's 50-50 in that regard. So, hey, I know the Chiefs odds aren't that good. I mean, if you put them up there at 538 or something, I'm sure they probably come up to be a lot less than that. But I like their odds. I think there's a pretty good chance to get to be the one seed as long as they win out. Yeah, that Bengals-Bills game is going to be a huge one. And if the Bills win it, I mean, they're going to be the odds-on favorite. There's no doubt about that, to have the number one seed. But you're absolutely right. I mean, the key to getting the one seed is that, barring a really strange circumstance, it means that the Bengals and the Bills would be on the other side of that bracket, and you would only have to go through one of them. You end up the 2 seed, you're going to have to go through both those teams to win. And on top of that, you're probably going to have to go through another really good playoff team, a wild card team. Mm-hmm. You want to go through the Chargers or the Dolphins plus the Bengals plus the Bills?
No, that is a rough road. So let's be all in. Let's take care of business. Check the turnovers. We're going to talk about where the players are, a couple of them rising, falling, and moving otherwise on the backside. Do want to let you guys know, if you're into the Chiefs Kingdom Rogue Nation stuff, we've got new hats over at RGR Football. You can check that out and get it in the store. Really a nice design that I think is going to go over big. It's one of my favorites. But we are brought to you today by our friends at Ultimate Football GM. It is a brand new mobile game that allows you to be your own GM. You can hire and fire coaches, coordinators. You can trade players, make mock picks, navigate the franchise through free agency and all the ups and downs of the offseason, including the draft, which I know is the focus for a lot of people. If you have dreamed of becoming an NFL GM, this is the way to do it. All you have to do is lock on our listeners to the 100% free boost, and that's within the game. So it's a boost in the game to your franchise by using that promo code Locked On. It is all caps in the game store, and that's Locked On in all caps. And make sure you check it out today. Download the game, ultimate-gm.com, and look it up on the App Store. That's ultimate-gm.com, and use that code Locked On. It's going to be fun. Start your fantasy today. The other thing that you probably need to get in on is this brand new series of podcasts Audible is producing, one of them by former Super Bowl champion and legendary smack talker Richard Sherman. You can see him on the TNF broadcast as well. He and Taylor Rooks are putting together something new. It's a kind of a docu-series based on bizarre and inspirational stories that you want to get more information on. And there's a lot to go on there. Head over to Locked On NFL for a bonus episode right now of the league, or catch the full series whenever you get your podcasts. They're available now on, obviously, Audible. Get in the game. Matt, what I want to get in the game on is that the odds have switched now, and I don't think it's necessarily related to Jalen Hurts' injury, but it looks like Patrick Mahomes is now, once again, in the lead for the odds for the MVP. I don't think that should have a bearing on the week-to-week stuff, but I'm not naive to think that he doesn't know about this. Am I wrong?
I'm sure he knows about it, because I mean, Patrick's a bit of he's an NFL news junkie, so I'm sure he sees it, probably hears it. People talk to him about it, ask him about it, and everything. How much attention he pays for it, I don't think he pays that much attention to it at all. I feel like it's one of those things with Patrick. Hey, one MVP is nice. That's a cool deal. He'll take more of them, but hey, it's the rings that he cares about. And if MVPs are the byproducts of rings, that's all he cares about.
I can get down with that completely. The other interesting thing that's going on now is there's all this discussion of the kicking game and the ins, the outs, things that I don't know. And quite frankly, I have never paid attention to because I'm not a special teams coordinator. If you're Dave Tobe, and this week's back and forth with a little bit of outside influence from a famous specialist here in town, what does that bring you to in terms of is it being done correctly? Is the approach correct? Is it the injury? The kicking game itself, what can we take away that really focus it back on? Is it coaching? Is it execution?
Probably a little bit of both. I mean, if you get into the weeds of what Dustin Colquitt's comments are about Tommy Townsend and the holds and everything, a lot of it's approach and just how you spin the laces and everything and what's really best for the holder, what's best for the kicker. Hey, it could be one of those things that your mileage may vary, kind of a thing. Maybe it is a bigger deal than we're all, giving, pause to and everything like this. I mean, we're talking about a very niche skill that honestly, I mean, the vast majority of us don't truly appreciate. I mean, just about what goes into it. I mean, and the revolutions that James Winchester needs to put on the ball to make sure that it gets in the right spot, and how Tommy Townsend's spinning the ball, whether it goes clockwise or counterclockwise. I mean, I'm sure 99.9% of us could not explain and adequately understand the intricacies of what goes on to this situation. All we understand is that we hear on TV, laces are supposed to be out. And if they're not out, sometimes the ball doesn't go the right way. Hey, it could be, is that the defining difference right now about why Harrison Butker's not making as many kicks as he was before? I don't know. Did Tommy Townsend just all of a sudden get dramatically worse as a holder? I don't know. I mean, I will say this. I mean, and this is what stands out to me, is that if we take for a moment that Dustin Colquitt's criticisms are true, and that Tommy Townsend just has some deficiencies as a holder, well, over the last couple of seasons, Harrison Butker's doing a pretty good job of masking them. And this year, when he's had a serious ankle injury that he's been dealing with and is still not 100%, maybe he's just not able to compensate for that as much anymore. And I mean, certainly the power is still there, but I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, and even though Harrison Butker's the last guy that will give you any excuses, I mean, again, today, he didn't point to the injury. He didn't point to Townsend. He says it's on him to make the kicks. He doesn't really want to get into all those details of it, and I get that and understand that. I mean, but he's ultimately taken responsibility for it. But like I said, I will say this: a healthy Harrison Butker, I don't think we're having this conversation, because I think he's just that good. He's the second most accurate kicker in the NFL. He hasn't lost it. He's still that guy. Are there things that the Chiefs can fix? Yeah, I think they absolutely would. Are there deficiencies and strengths that Tommy Townsend has? Probably. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, Dave Tobe was giving him a lot of props for, saving a bad snap. So now on the same kick, Dustin Colquitt says the laces were wrong. So we're talking about a very, very detailed argument that we're probably not, and I don't know anybody else except for maybe Dustin Colquitt, who's, got the authority to judge and the knowledge and the understanding to judge. And then again, it's always possible that he's just defending his guy Harrison. I think that was obviously Andy Reid's, I think, kind of philosophy and everything. And so maybe some of the players is that, hey, this is the guy that he's close to and everything. It's a highly detailed argument. Colquitt may be right. It's hard to tell. Like I said, I go back to Harrison hasn't had a lot of problems before. So I think with a healthy Harrison Butker, you don't have these problems. So what's your option to fix it as for the Chiefs when it comes to this? Well, 2023, I wouldn't worry about, because I think Harrison Butker is going to be good. You're going to bring somebody else to replace Harrison Butker in 2022? Good luck, because you bring somebody else in, they're not going to be as good as him.
Yeah, I agree. I see two options here, and they're both related to Dustin, and maybe this is why I made the comments. I could give him $1 a day contract, so $7 a week to come in, just hold those kicks. I could also see, I mean, there's no rule against adding staff in this league. Dave Tobe could use an assistant. Maybe that's the way it's been for a couple of years with so many young players on this group. Could it just be maybe Dustin come in and help out the guys that are doing the hard part?
You might be able to get that through. I don't know if from the interview I heard with Dustin today on radio in Kansas City, might have to soothe over some things and have a summit, meeting before you could get that done. But
well, this is why I don't hear the radio in KC every day. So, ouch. That said, it is about a healthy Harrison Butker. I agree with you. I still think the ankle is the issue overall. We might even hear postseason that there's something that has to be done about that interventionally. But it is important to be healthy. The other big news item today is that the defensive line room is not healthy. And is this a concern for us this week as we look there? It's a strange week. It's Christmas, the whole 9 yards, getting prepared for that. And you're dealing with this illness. Was it 3 guys that were out today?
Yeah, it was Chris Jones, Mike Dana, and Colin Saunders who were out sick on Tuesday. So there is a little bug, I mean, going through, and they're doing what they can to kind of distance those guys and keep them apart from everybody else and keep them separated when they're in their meeting rooms. Kind of harking me back to last year, because you remember Christmas week last year for the Chiefs was a big COVID outbreak before the Steelers game. Obviously not that kind of depth and scenario this year, but there has been bugs are going around right now. There has been one kicking around the organization the last few weeks. Looks like it's got to the defensive tackle group and defensive line group right now. We'll see if it gets any worse from this. And obviously Chris Jones played through it on Sunday. I'd expect there's a pretty good chance he plays again this weekend, or on Saturday, regardless of what's going on right now. But it's worth watching and monitoring for sure.
I think it's going to be really important to monitor that really closely, as well as like you would do with the next opponent. We're going to talk about what the Seahawks bring to this contest and just how nervous should the Kansas City Chiefs be given the last couple of weeks. But first, a message from our friends over at Total Wine and More. They are supporting us, and we're brought to you by them today. And for this holiday, you can find everything you need there, from great bottles that you can choose from to any of the finest single barrel bourbon. I prefer Scotch myself, so if anybody's looking for a present for moi, feel free. Perfect gifts are on everyone's list, and you can find it on a friendly guide. Doesn't matter what you're looking for. Know the confidence that you have found something special and at the lowest price. Love what you find and find what you love over at Total Wine and More. Curbside pickup and delivery are available in most areas at most locations, but make sure you verify that. Visit TotalWine.com to learn more. Spirits are not sold in Virginia, North Carolina. Drink responsibly. Please be 21. Now that eggnog, etc., fixings aside, this Seahawks team is, I think, another one that can get you a little sideways, to tell you the truth. Real hot early. A lot of accolades for Geno Smith. Has cooled significantly down the stretch. I think part of that is in due to there's another team that's playing a high volume of rookie snaps in Kenneth Walker at the running back position, at both offensive tackle positions, and Howard Cross and Abraham Lucas. This is a team that I think comes in wounded, but sometimes that's the most dangerous team. What do the Chiefs have to do to stay ahead of that and not let this be the team that bites them? Like two teams have come close in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and and part of me thinks that a little bit of the Texans game was the Chiefs playing a fairly conservative and vanilla offensive approach. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why Mahomes had the efficient game that he did, is that they weren't really trying to push the boundaries too much. They were trying to take care of the football, which they did, trying to just move it effectively, not take a lot of chances and risks. And hey, you take that same approach in with the Seahawks, and and you make a couple of mistakes, things can go the wrong way. So that's to me, I mean, what you do have to just watch out for. You got to take every opponent seriously. And the Seahawks are a lot like Texans in the same way. I mean, they got some key injuries. Probably won't have Tyler Lockett this week. That's going to be a problem because that's a big part of their offense. I look at a team though with the Seahawks right now; they're just going the wrong direction. The one thing that they've done effectively this year is they scored some points at time, but they haven't been doing it over the last 4 or 5 games in this losing streak. So to me, if you're the Chiefs, this is a classic case of just take care of the football, play some efficient offense, don't make any mistakes, don't commit penalties, and you're going to be fine. Now, the weather might be dicey. I mean, we're talking about, it looks like the high temperature for Saturday might reach 10 if they're lucky. It's going to be windy. I know they're talking about single digit below zero temperature at kickoff for the feels like temperature. So it's going to be nasty out there. There might be some snow on the ground. Doesn't look like any precipitation during the game, but, cold can always be a factor. But then again, I mean, I always think that cold is an advantage for the Chiefs at Arrowhead than it is, for an opponent like Seattle coming in here.
Yeah, I have to think so. I think that showed last week in Buffalo as well, that it is an advantage overall. Now, this is a team that hasn't had many turnovers lately coming in for the defense to try to take advantage of, and I think that's going to be an important one as well. Walker has not had the luck on the ground that he's had early in the season. I think he was 3.9 yards a rush last week. Is that what you expect the Chiefs to have to focus on, stopping the run first?
Yeah, I mean, with the way that the Seahawks are constituted right now, yeah, I mean that's it. I mean, I think they need to be able to. The Seahawks need to be able to establish the run in order to get the other elements of their offense going. If they can run the football, pick up some yards, move the chains a little bit, then yeah, they can get on a roll, because we've seen this Chiefs defense. I mean, it's been a bend but break defense of late. You need to force the Seahawks into your advantage. And with the Chiefs, that means being able to stop them on first and second down, force them into third and long situations where they can, be more aggressive, use the pass rush and the blitzes that Steve Spagnuolo likes to deploy on third and long, third and medium, and do that. I mean, but if the Seahawks come in here and they're able to run the football effectively and kind of take the air out of this game, I mean, that's to me how they win this game. I don't think the Seahawks are going to come in here and win a shootout with the Chiefs, but they can win this game if they can muddle it up in the conditions that we're going to have this weekend.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think for the Chiefs offense, I'm not terribly concerned that secondary is a little bit beat up. They do have a guy who started really hot and was a rookie sensation in Tyreek Woolen. Tariq. Got to pronounce that correctly. Woolen's cooled significantly, but if there's anybody that's going to push for the best DB of this rookie class in their rookie season, it is going to be him. Now, the Chiefs have 3 rookies playing as well, and so there's a good amount of competition there. I think Patrick Mahomes has a much easier field to look at than Geno Smith will. But on that side, I think might be the premier matchup. We've talked through this season about what the advantage is for this particular trio of rookie corners when they face, say, the Chargers, who are coming on lately, folks. And that's another team you don't want to play in the playoffs right now because of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, 2 sizable receivers. Well, there's any combination of size and speed in this league that might be more scary. It is one DK Metcalf, who was targeted 9 times last week. They will feed him the ball. They will attempt to get him as many passes as possible. Now, the Niners did a pretty good job, including our old friend Ward, in limiting him to just 55 yards on those 9 targets. Do you think that this rookie class of corner is ready for this after their experience so far this season, or is this going to be eye-opening?
No, I mean, I think this should be what going up to DK Metcalf, they should be fine with this. They should say, okay, we've seen this before. We've seen this in Cincinnati. We've seen this in Buffalo. We've seen some teams with some pretty big receiver groups and tough guys to cover. The one thing that should be in their advantage, though, is that if you don't have to worry about Tyler Lockett and Metcalf's the one guy that you have to worry about, that makes life a whole lot easier. So, I mean, the Chiefs have an advantage this week in that regard, in that they've got to circle one guy to slow down. I mean, if you stop Metcalf, you got a pretty good chance. And that's what, like I said, really makes the Seahawks, one to 2 dimensional. I mean, I'd be much more worried about the Seahawks team coming in here with a healthy Lockett. But the way they're constituted right now, and certainly the way they're playing right now, they're just not very effective. So if you can take Metcalf out of the game, you can slow down the run game. I like their chances. And no, I don't think that this young defensive secondary, they should be affected by this. I mean, I think as good as DK Metcalf is, I think they have seen guys that are just as good, if not better. Yeah, they struggled at those, but in some of those matchups, but I don't think this should be anything that they haven't seen before.
Okay. So that said, what's the temperature of the team from what we've seen so far this week? Are they focused on DK? Is it playing it close to the vest, or is it just business as usual?
Yeah, I think the one thing that certainly the conversations that I heard on Tuesday in the locker room and around the team and everything was really, more about tightening up their own operation than anything else. That's, I think, what they're most concerned about right now is just cleaning up a few of the things. As much as, hey, maybe there was some criticism of the officiating against the Texans. Chiefs at the same time feel like, hey, there's little things maybe to tighten up there and clean up on their own end to make sure that they don't put themselves in that position. Defensively, like we talked about, I mean, that's the other area where they really want to clean up some things and tighten some stuff up. They feel like that their best opportunity to improve at this point in the season right now is to focus on themselves. To get healthy in a few spots. If once they get, McCole Hardman and Kadarius Toney both healthy and on the field at the same time, they feel like that's going to add another dimension to the offense. Defensively, they've got some things to figure out. And that's one of the things where they need to play better, but that's going to have a lot more to do about fixing themselves than necessarily finding anything on film or exploiting an opponent weakness. They feel like their weaknesses are what they need to focus on right now.
Well, hopefully they can do that and they get all the guys back in the defensive line room, and that makes things easier. So as we wrap up for today, what is your gut feeling about this contest?
I mean, I feel like I'm sounding like a broken record because I feel like this is going to end up being a little bit like the Texans game, at least my feeling of how it's going to play out. I don't think it's going to be as close as that. I don't see this as an overtime game, but until the Chiefs defense shows me that they can get some stops in the red zone, I am assuming that they're going to give up some points. I don't think this is going to be a big offensive game unless there are some turnovers that lead to scores and short fields. But I think the Chiefs are just a better team. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs 30-21.
Okay. I'm going to take it, folks. You'll get my prediction on Friday. We'll have Matt back post-game after the pressers, so a little bit delayed, but don't miss that after the ball game. Thanks for listening to us today. Thanks for your time, Matt.
Always a pleasure. Take care, everybody.
You guys have a good one. We'll talk to you tomorrow.